It's done. Put a fork in it. If you think you're going to get record money for your Ferrari 355, even if it has 3 pedals, unless it's perfect, got some bad news for you. Derek Tam Scott joins us to analyze this listing on Bring a Trailer. Bit Nerds is your daily YouTube card game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Hagerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds.
We have a 1997 Ferrari 355 Spider with a 6-speed manual transmission, also on Bring a Trailer. Our car is located in Phoenix, Arizona, and is currently showing 34,000 miles. Obviously, the big news here is that we're talking about a manual car. It is in resale red, Rosso Corsa over tan. This is what, every every nouveau riche Ferrari guy wants. Interesting car, JP, because just a couple of years ago you could have picked up this car for $80,000, but gated manuals, especially from this era, from the De Montezemolo era, have truly gone through the roof. And while the coupes are now bringing $250,000, the tide rises all ships, JP, and these cars are now over 6 figures. Especially when you consider reasonable miles and, let's say, a clean Carfax, and a very relatable color. And red over tan is about as cliche or as iconic, depending on who you ask, in the Ferrari form. A lot of times the values on these cars, the final value is determined by the most recent belt service. I am not seeing that in the listing, which is always kind of weird when they don't just offer it up in the first paragraph that this car has had a major service. And then given, at least a month and a year, so you could sort of estimate, or a mileage, something like that. So I'll continue to search to see if I can find it. I'm sure somebody would have asked him in the comments. But John, I've driven 23. One of these cars. Thank you. So that's recent enough. So the belts are done. So this car should look to the, closer to the retail end of it. Being a clean car, and like I said, it might not be the color you or I would want, but I think it's the color that the septuagenarian that's shopping for this car might. If there's a younger guy out there that's come into some money and this is sort of an attainable Ferrari for him, I just wonder if that young guy wants red on tan. It's interesting to say that with the proliferation of the values of rare shades, that younger guy might want a green one, or I don't know, a yellow one, or a blue one, or a burgundy one, and might not want red or tan because that's the color his uncle would drive. So I just wonder if red tan on a fun car like this isn't the kiss of death. So I send it to you, JP. Belts, clean car, reasonable miles, and this is a fantastic driving car as far as the revs and the horsepower. I mean, this is a truly thrilling car that would spank a similar year Porsche, either a 993 turbo or a 964 turbo. Would have to work really hard to keep up with these cars, because these cars the performance was actually there. Ferrari kind of missed the mark with the 348, but they came back strong with this sort of .2 of that platform. So JP, what do you think of this car? What do you think of the colorway, and what do you think of the presentation?
Yeah, I mean, the presentation is pretty lousy. I mean, it's just kind of run-of-the-mill photos, clearly with a cell phone or something like that. There's just no romance.
There's no sandwiches.
Here. No, it's certainly better than the last guy on P-Car Mark. Right? It is without breakfast, so I don't know. I'm a little bit upset about that. I've always wanted one of these, and dang it, you get a coupon for Burger King breakfast. But I've just always been scared away from them just because of the reputation they have for just being total maintenance hogs. This is definitely the enthusiast car that you have, as well as another enthusiast car or a couple other enthusiast car. This probably isn't the enthusiast car that you get first. Unless you want a lot of heartache. And I think a lot of people get into these because the barrier to entry isn't crazy. I mean, we'll get to the numbers here, but it's nowhere near what a new Ferrari, call it, like a 458 or a newer, era car. But I think this is one of the most beautiful cars ever made, honestly, by Ferrari. I just absolutely love these things. And I couldn't care what color the car is. They're just, I think a lot of people get lured into them because of their beauty, and they wind up getting rid of them quick when they get that first service bill at the Ferrari store or the Ferrari guy that works on them. It's just so heavy. Derek, what do you think of these?
I am sort of an outspoken critic of these cars. I think they're gorgeous. I will absolutely agree with you. I think it's one of the best looking mid-engine Ferraris ever. And it's kind of all downhill from there. The roof is a pain in the ass to deal with. They drive differently when they have no roof because they're not as rigid. Everybody loves the flat plane noise. It doesn't, for me personally, do that much. And then I think the really regrettable part of these cars is they're just not very well made. You get in the interiors and you're just like, man, they wear age poorly. A lot of stuff kind of looks cheap and gross when it's not beautiful, which happens when they hit 11,000 miles. And the other thing about this, I mean, if we're going to transition into talking about the specific car, it's kind of, we refer back to my comment about repeatability. This is a pretty repeatable car. It's a red tan Spider. It's not the top of the desirability heap. It's not a like, holy shit, when am I going to find another one just like this? It's going to sort of have to trade right at the market value, or, maybe fall a little flat if the right people aren't there that day. So I want to like these cars, but I think dynamically and also just the quality, they're just always kind of a letdown for me every time I interact with one. And then you add on, it's super expensive to maintain. Oh, yes, perfect. Sign me the fuck out. Sorry.
Yeah. I've told the story before on the show. I've been very close to buying one of these, and this was back in the mid-aughts, and I had financing lined up. I had the car. I was buying the car, and I was basically going down to the dealership the next day, and I called one of my buddies that actually owns one. Looked identical to this one, and I'm like, okay, for real, how bad is the maintenance? Is it really as bad as? And I was kind of thinking, oh, it's just overblown. Just everyone just talks about it, but no, he's like, yeah, the lowest bill I've ever gotten when I've brought the car in for any service at all was $13,000. That was the lowest bill. And at the time, the car was like $70,000, so I was like, yep. I'm different. I'm out. Yeah, I can't do that. That was, so it's like pretty much every time you go there, you buy a Honda Civic. Got it. I'll stick with Porsches for a while. Thank you very much. All right. What do we think this car will bring? Do we think it'll bring anything? Is it going to sell? What's going on, Michael Deeb?
Yeah, JP, this is really interesting. So our car is sitting at just $40,250. Our car closes tomorrow on Bring a Trailer out of Phoenix, Arizona. It's on 15 bids. And JP, on paper, this should be, close to $125,000, $150,000 car. But there's something so repeatable, to borrow Derek's vernacular, about this car that I'm just not feeling it. There's nothing in this car that screams that it's special, despite having the manual and, again, just sort of fair miles. So I'm struggling to see, just reading the tea leaves, if this car is even going to break 100. And it absolutely should, but I don't know if it will. The average selling price, according to classic.com, for a car like this is around $94,000. Hagerty's implying that this car, even if we sort of hit it hard and say it's just a number 3 condition, it should bring $106,000. I'm not feeling either of those two numbers, but I'm going to go somewhere in between and say, for some reason, I don't think this car breaks $100,000. It's a 1997, so I'm going to give you $97,355 for my bid, to be cutesy. And at my number, John, I think it fails to sell. And I just don't know what he did wrong. He shot in the golden hour. It's a red tan Ferrari. It's got a manual, but I can't explain it. I just don't think this one's going to get there. This should be a $120,000 car in today's market, but I just don't feel like this one's going to get there, and I can't explain why. JPTU, $97,355 is my bid. Where are you?
Yeah, I mean, the photos here, if I took the photos, or if Derek took the photos, or Lee or whatever, we'd be talking about a much different scenario. If this car was presented like the Mangusta was, and they took care of just some of those little little details, detailed it better, took care of a couple of those little rock chips, and just, show a little bit of romance, my man. You get that $120 for this car. I think someone wants this. This is the experience that someone's looking for. The service having been done recently is great. But the fact that the photos are taking in a crappy parking lot right up against the containment wall there, and that it's just poorly represented means this car. I mean, we're seeing, look, the F1 transmission ones aren't even bringing 70 grand at this point. We're back down to kind of like 2019 numbers on these things. So the 6-speed is a big deal. This car should be a $120, but I'm with you. I don't think it's going to even break 100 because there's nothing special about this. There's there's just no romance. I want to fall in love and I just can't. So yeah, you said 97 355. Yeah, I will go 95 355 and hand it off to Derek.
All right, Derek, give us your number.
I think you're spot on. I mean, the listing just has no sizzle.
Yes,
and that's exactly what you need, especially with a repeatable car, right? You have to at least sell the romance of this particular example with good photography, and it doesn't do that. I mean, there was one that had 40,000 miles, so a little bit more than this car, but it had I think it was current on belts and same combo Spider 6-speed, and it sold for 93,355. So I don't think this car could break 100 even on a great day. Maybe it tickles like 100, but I think it's right around 100 at best. But with this indifferent presentation, I think that it R&M at 85, and I think the car's market value is like 95, 96.
Yeah, you don't even think it's worth over 100.
So 85 reserve not met. That's a strong take, JP. He's betting against the. He doesn't think this one stands a chance.
Well, what about
the presentation? Is just so meh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
We had Max Vincenzi from Retroworks Garage on the last episode, and one thing he mentioned, he's like, he likes seeing a listing that has poor photography because to him it represents the potential for getting a deal. And so if this seller is reasonable and does actually want to sell it and has a reserve low enough that he's like, look, I just have to sell it. This might be a great way for someone to steal this car, because the seller is leaving money on the table. So, and I'm kind of with Max. If I'm looking for cars, I'm looking for any way I can get a break on that money as I can. So this might be a way to sneak in there and get something out from underneath other potential bidders. But what do you guys out there in the nerd herd think? Looks like Tom Amenta's up there at 95. Everyone else is kind of like under that. Max, he's at 62. Where's it at now? How high is it? It's at 40 something.
It's at $40,250.
Yeah, boy, I'm really rethinking. And how many days does it have left on it?
It closes tomorrow.
Oh, geez, we totally overbid. I should have gone 80 because, I mean, is it going to more than double? That's what it'd have to do in order for me to get where I'm at. But at least I'm under you.
On paper, this car should be worth over 100 grand, and again, none of us are seeing it at all. Yeah. JP, we kind of caught back up on our schedule. Can we just...
Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy.
1989 linen gray metallic G50 cab.
Is that gonna be for sale?
It is gonna be for sale. The car only has 65,000 miles.
Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair.
Several days later.
This 1997 Ferrari 355 Spider with a 6-speed manual. Our car has 34,000 miles. Is listed on Bring a Trailer out of Phoenix, Arizona. Limited slip differential, beautiful wheels, absolutely resale red Ferrari Rosso Corsa with tan Connolly leather and a black dashboard, black carpets. This is a no-nonsense car, but the presentation wasn't very good. We all basically agreed with that. And I was really sort of opening the dialogue that, like, look, man, there's a lot of young, successful people out there, young millionaires, and there's like a whole new wave of people that want to own these types of cars. Is red and tan like now sort of the kiss of death? Is this a boring colorway? Is this a colorway you could only rock if you wear really expensive pleated chinos, and so I just wondered that aloud. Nobody really kind of jumped on that, but the result, I think, sort of speaks to that dialogue. I still thought that this is, like, on paper, $120,000 car, and I felt like this car wouldn't break $100,000. JP, I gave you a bid of $97,355. You took a pretty close under at $95,355. And then Derek Tam Scott, who was our guest host, third nerd on last week's show, he also didn't think much of this car or its presentation, and he took an under almost 10 grand underneath you, JP, at just $85,000. Chef, low mileage, manual, American market, 355 Spider, very similar to the Porsche market. The coupes bring way more money, and then the GTSs or the Targas bring sort of the second highest denomination, and cabriolets, or spiders as the Italians like to call them, tend to do what we way softer. On paper, this car should have been over 100 grand. None of our bids were. What do you think happened here on Bring a Trailer?
I'm not a huge Ferrari guy, but actually I do like that particular car. But I still say my bid for that kind of car would be like $94,000.
94,000, right? So you would park it under JP. One of the things I think Derek and JP hammered home is that the service on these cars is really expensive. And despite them being considerably less expensive when they were brand new, the cars don't know that they've gone down in value, and services are still breathtakingly expensive. And Derek felt that, and JP hammered home, that might hold the bidding back. Chef's bid at $94,000. Our car hammered at $87,500, and it took 52 bids to get there, but our car failed to sell at that number, which is interesting. So JP, I think the first thing we're going to wonder is, where was the reserve set? And then the other thing I would ask you, because we like to play it close to the hips here, do you think that's the retail number for that car, and he should have taken the money? I mean, according to Derek, that's every penny. And, because of expensive insurance and expensive maintenance costs and how high maintenance these cars are, he's like, why would you bother? Should he have taken the money and run with that? And where do you think the reserve was? I'm guessing the reserve was probably in the 90s. And so you got to wonder, at 87.5, like, could he not just have expected a little bit more and just maybe should have sent it? What do you think, John?
Well, I mean, I don't agree with you about the color thing. I don't think that matters at all. I don't think the red on tan, that's just what you expect. Is it the most exciting color combo? Of course not. But, it's what you would expect for this car. The issue is how it was presented. This is just a poor listing straight up. And unfortunately, it was on the best platform for the car, BAT. So now it's going to be really tough for him to relist this somewhere else. I think he's going to have to wait at least 90 days to bring this car back to market. And
well, hold on. Let me jump over to PCAR Market and see if it's live already.
Yeah, right. They may have snagged the. That's a very good point. But yeah, I mean, and if you gave this car to someone like Avant-Garde or whatever, or someone that knew how to, or Derek Tam Scott, those guys could take photos of this thing and make it romantic, touch up a few of those rock chips and make this the Ferrari that you want to love. I think the big problem, though, ultimately, is that everyone recognizes this particular model as nothing but a toy. And I think that people just aren't in toy mode right now. People are freaked out of the election. People are freaked out about things like war and inflation and all that kind of stuff. That's all anyone's really talking about. And I think collectors are going out there and buying really high-end stuff as ways to maybe park some excess liquidity as a way to offset inflation. So they're looking at really blue chip cars that will appreciate over time. I think everyone realizes that this car is probably not going to appreciate in any great way anytime soon, if at all. That moment where these things spiked like everything else did, I think, like we said at the top of the show, the rules of 2 or 3 years ago are pretty much out the window. Yes, this car is a manual car, so it's always going to hold its value a lot more than an F1 transmission. But I got to tell you, if this car had an F1 transmission in it, I don't think this car would have broke $50,000. And for real, right? I mean, nobody wants that car. At least this thing has 3 pedals. Chef, what do you think of the result?
I think, speculating on, I think BAT maybe would have gave him a reserve at 97, would have been hugely generous. And I think he probably wanted 97 or more, because if you can afford a Ferrari and someone's within 3 or 4 grand of your asking price, I think you would drop the reserve at that point. I mean, so I think he was, I think he wanted at least 10,000 more than he got, and I don't think I would pay that much money for that car for all the same reasons you said. High maintenance expenses, it does need a few details cleaned up, and it's a toy. It's not a car I'm going to get in, comfortably drive to California, because I don't know that I would trust it for that.
Yeah, no way in hell I'm crossing the desert in this thing. All right, guys, what do you think of the results of this F355 Ferrari in red on tan with some rock chips, shot with another cell phone? Is this car the 6-speed magic car that everyone thinks of it? Should the guy have taken the money and run, or was he smart to hold on to it and see if he could sell it on the private market on his own for more money? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Hey guys, thanks for watching this clip of the Bid Nerds podcast. Play along with us live every Sunday and Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. on YouTube. And see if your bids stack up to the rest of the nerd herd in the chat live. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Nerd! Get those nerds!